because it's like a good little cursory introduction to like
pedophilia.
If
you're ever wondering how to get into pedophilia.
Pros and cons.
Yeah.
Yeah, wiki how to become a pedophile.
It's like the illustration of the guy looking concerned.
Yeah.
Sorry, go on.
It's because now I keep seeing it more and more as like this video that dumbass YouTube conservative people are just like the first time I saw it was one of those videos where they put like scary music and it's like playing on a stock footage of like a TV.
Right. Oh yeah.
Which for some reason like gives it merit or something.
Yeah.
But it's just a way of getting an older, shittier resolution video to look nicer. I don't really understand what it is, why people do that.
It's the same deal as like the people who put a mic up in front of what they're saying to make it look like they're on a podcast when they're just saying some dumb shit in a YouTube video.
Yeah, yeah.
It's like basically the similar effect. It's just like a framing of it.
Yeah. How are there so many podcasts where female models just go on them to get berated by like a dude who
like a 6 out of 10 guy.
Yeah, a dude who drinks like Monster Energy for breakfast.
Speaking of which, our cocktail of beverages on this fine late afternoon, I am trying Monster Ultra Sunrise Zero Sugar for the first time. I am fucking loving it. This is great.
When you texted me the name of the Monster Energy you asked me to buy the other day, yeah. I was like, there's no way
You're
this
like,
exists.
Bitch, what the fuck are you
and
talking about?
And lo and behold, these fucking drinks look like a fucking soccer jersey.
Yeah,
they look
really
like
do.
a fucking NASCAR jersey. The amount of
they do
words and pictures on them.
Yeah, they be giving Dr. Bronner's type energy. And Julian already had the new brew and is now moved on to the Coke
deep.
Zero. I haven't opened my new brew. I'm going the opposite direction first. I'm getting picked up to be put down.
You're holding off until they
sponsor
us
me.
the product.
You know what? New brew. They said they were going to email me. Who knows? They may have actually looked into the podcast and then changed their mind, or the social media intern may have simply forgotten.
If we could get New Brew hats, I would be so. That's all I want.
I really want the drink.
I know the drink is a better deal.
But
I personally, if you could just say, can you send me the drinks? Can you send my co-host a hat?
I'd love to say that. I would love to say that.
Because their logos, it's just the old Dreamcast logo.
Basically.
Yeah. If they sponsor us, maybe I won't notify Sega's attorneys about that.
Yeah. New Brew, the nation of Japan, is quite cross with you right now.
Well, you'd have to go to jail for like 8 weeks in Japan if you were caught with a New Brew.
That's true.
You need like a prescription for Tylenol there.
Yeah. Also, no, I want.
Of course, the jail is just folding origami cranes and a very comfortable place in a place that's probably bigger than most apartments.
You do have to sit on a mat on the floor, which for Americans is torture, because our fat asses don't like bending down that low.
No, hell no.
No, I certainly don't. But I will say, I mean, I really want, you got it, even a 6-pack of New Brew. I'll do line reads until like well past the point of when they tell me to stop. And I'm not gonna lie, I like looked at my receipt when purchasing these for the first time. These MFs are like $5 each.
You got it at
I got it Foremost,
right?
Yeah. Do they be jacking up the prices there?
No, but there's another place that I won't put on blast. In one town over, that they're like $6 a can. It's highway robbery.
Is it like $4.50 at Foremost or something?
I think it's $4.50 maybe $4.
I bought 5 because I thought I would need some for later tonight.
Yeah, you got to think about the tax you're paying.
Yeah,
the tip.
The tip. Yeah, I always tip my.
They're like six or $6.50 at this other place, which is insane. And I talked to somebody about it who's familiar with that place and the owner, and I guess the rent they pay on their spot is outrageous.
Huh.
And that sucks, but still,
it's coming out of my pocket.
Yeah,
for my New Brews.
I don't give a shit where your building is.
Yeah. Well. We'll see. Maybe we'll get a New Brew sponsorship. Maybe not. If not, I will be forced to continue advertising their product for free and buying it all the time.
We'll do that.
My hands are tied.
What more do they want from us?
No.
We buy their product. We talk about it all the time.
Right. We're
using our platform to raise awareness.
For the second time, because I was at your liquor store. You were out of town. I was at your liquor store with Tom and Maddie and some of their friends. I convinced every single person, 5 people, to buy New Brew, including and me. And I bought 2. So we bought 7 New Brews right there on the spot. Then last night, I was with Tom and Woodrow, and we went into Woodrow's local liquor store. They had the New Brew. I, once again, told everyone in the group to buy New Brew, and we all did. And I bought 2. Everywhere I go, a sale of anywhere between 4 and 8 New Brews occurs.
Either New Brew needs to start sponsoring us, or they need to shift to a MLM model. Because we gotta start reaping some sort of benefit.
I know
that is not just serenity and focus.
And if we do an MLM, then I win too, because then I have to buy their product directly from them, and then I can just drink it all.
Yeah,
I don't even have to sell it, and I'll be happy.
Either way, it works.
I win.
Yeah. So
we're not really here to talk about New Brew, are we?
No.
We're here to talk about
what we talk about when we talk about New Brew.
We're here to talk about something else that's Los Angeles based.
Yeah, something else brewing in Los Angeles.
Yeah, that's for damn sure. And this topic in general has really been sort of evergreen over the past couple of years. I mean, with everything from the bubbling up of QAnon to the sort of new breed of satanic panic that came with the, drag queen story hour type beats. And like all that stuff. This is something that is, really on everyone's mind. Oh God, when my new favorite pop musician, the Dares album came out, and there were 1 million people calling him a pedophile because he literally just had sexual imagery in his work. That was it. Basically,
not even of children.
No, not at all. It was just like, they were sort of styled like vaguely in Abercrombie clothes or whatever, and people just called him a pedophile for
pedophilia comes in many forms.
So we've learned.
Yeah.
And we today
doesn't even need to involve children anymore.
No, exactly. Yeah. And there's just basically in many facets of culture, there is a new satanic panic style concern troll of, sex trafficking, pedophilia, specifically child sex trafficking. Very serious topic, but one that is not being dealt with quite seriously. We're gonna talk about a couple things, but the central focus video of our investigation today is called Mel Gibson, the 1998 full interview exposing the true evils of Hollywood, #2023, #Mel Gibson, #Hollywood. That will sort of be our focal point today. But there's lots else to talk about too.
Yeah, this is kind of a gateway for this conversation. Yeah, it's a conversation starter, if you will. This is a more succinct way to put it.
Right, bit of an icebreaker.
Yeah,
like when I'm at the when you're at like Jeffrey Epstein's island and there's lots of people there, you don't know each other, so you play the game where you write a celebrity and tape it to your forehead, and everyone has to get. It's kind of like an icebreaker, if you will. Like, this Mel Gibson video.
The 2 truths and a lie.
Yeah, playing 2 truths and a lie with my bunkmates on the Lolita Express.
Yeah. This video came to my attention because of my increasingly bizarre and erratic YouTube algorithm.
Yeah.
Recommending me a related video called probably something similar to Mel Gibson exposes Hollywood dark secret or something. Because there is a 3 to 5 minute segment in this interview. The interview is about 25 minutes. Yep. Where Mel Gibson describes meeting Christopher Walken.
Yeah.
And he implies, I think somewhat ironically, that Christopher Walken is a vampire.
Yes.
And they start talking about medieval torture and things like that. I don't know. I just saw that little clip and you know what? This falls into the category of a few years ago, the guy who built the Killdozer in Colorado.
Oh, yeah.
Who like plowed through several buildings in the town and eventually took his own life because the police had him surrounded because his bulldozer got caught in a drainage ditch or something.
Yeah.
I was watching like footage of that because it used to be one of my favorite videos.
It's a great video. I don't think anyone died in that other than the driver.
Just him.
Yeah, fortunately. Because he caused some crazy damage. So because of that, it's an awesome video.
Yeah, and there's even a book written about it, and I read the book, and it's just like a really interesting like insight into just like, you know, an American psychopath who gets more and more isolated, like loses their friends, a relationship falls apart, they become more and more erratic and secluded, and then they eventually like go foul of some sort of government regulation. This guy was like building a septic tank outside of his property without following like proper city guidelines or something.
See, we need the government out of our toilets, y'all. Sorry, go on.
And he just like snapped and just decided that he was going to just try to destroy everything in town. But I was reading the YouTube comments on this video, and he has since become some sort of folk hero of like, man gets fed up with government interference and being wronged by the government. And I just like, it's so fascinating to see these videos like come back without any of their original context and just being taken by random ass fucking people online. Who knows if they're real or not? I'd like to think, I would hope they're not, but I think they are real.
Yeah.
Who just like start looking up to these people. And this Mel Gibson video has a lot of comments of he had his career taken away because of him speaking the
his truths. Yeah.
Which if you look at, you know, I don't know how you could in the year 2023 say Mel Gibson's career was taken away from him.
Exactly. That's one.
Maybe at the time when he was, you know, verbally berating his wife with the racial slurs and telling a cop that Jews control the world and that she was probably Jewish too. Maybe at that time you could say his career was over. But I think given another like 13 years since that incident, you'd be hard pressed to find anybody who would think that Mel Gibson's career was taken away from him.
Yeah, well, a couple things you said there that ring true. One, it is really amazing. Listen, I'm not trying to be a prude here. You know, I love my edgy aesthetics, but it is kind of amazing how everyone is just so excited to look up to a terrorist. Not even really an effective one.
Yeah.
People are like, this guy's awesome because he got mad at the government and started destroying every building within eyesight of him or attempting to. It's like, I don't know what to tell you. Like, there needs to be some kind of regulation. Like
I mean, Osama bin Laden felt the same way.
Exactly.
And he was a lot better at doing it.
He wasn't on our team. This guy, the Killdozer, that's an American patriot. Osama bin Laden, he got fucking fed up with the government too and destroyed the World Trade Center.
What's the difference?
What is the difference? That's a really good point. I mean, you know, there's probably some people on there who do think Osama bin Laden's cool, but
I mean, I have a cousin who I have a lot of strange cousins.
You do.
This is not the murder cousin, but this cousin was in the Marines and he was constantly posting on Facebook like how much he hated Obama and like how like Obama was a traitor and all this stuff. And he eventually got kicked out of the military for having sex with a minor.
Okay.
And I was talking to my family about it, and I was like, there's like not really any difference between his beliefs and like the Taliban's beliefs.
Yeah.
He's like has no problem violating the age of consent and hates the people who run the U.S. government. Like, what is the difference?
That's a really good point. And yeah, it's again in I was about to say there's nothing wrong with that. I mean, okay, ignoring the whatever, having sex with a minor thing. You know, if you're an edgy person who's not committing any crimes and you're like, the Taliban is cool, I'm like, okay, whatever. I can't, you know, you're not hurting anyone. You just have a thought, so I can't be mad at you for that. But if you're like, fuck the Taliban, but the Killdozer guy was cool, it's like, well, yeah. what is the difference?
Yeah.
So that's one thing, is the willingness in, you know, mind you, a country where random mass murder is like just at a very high percentage higher than many other places in the world.
Yeah.
And the willingness of the common man to just identify with the domestic terrorist. The other thing you said is that because of this interview in 1998, which we'll be about to unpack in a moment, Mel Gibson, there's 2 points here. 1, spoke truths, and 2, was silenced by Hollywood because of it. And I would like to examine both of those points in this conversation because I'm very, very curious to see or very curious to examine what these people who promote these videos, when someone is speaking a truth to them, that means like, it just means like saying something completely unrelated
yes.
that they then interpret as a symbolic word meant only for them to hear.
Right, yeah.
Which is fantastic. There's a lot of that in this Mel Gibson interview.
I would love to get our podcast to that level.
Yeah, to the point where people are like, we say something like, ooh, this citrus new brew tastes great. And someone listening is like, you know what? I will kill the teller at my local Chase Bank. Yeah, once we get to that level, we've really made it. Yeah, so in this Mel Gibson interview, which was done for Channel 4, I think it was a British interview, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah. The guy directing it, I forgot to write his name.
He's a
director,
right?
Yeah, he made Leaving Las Vegas. Mike Figgis, a British guy. Mike Figgis.
Michael Figgis.
He is interviewing Mel Gibson, but the focus is on Mel Gibson. It's a conversation between filmmakers, but it's more of a focus on Mel Gibson. And this is 98. And yeah, it starts off, you know, he's really just talking about actors, producing, filmmaking, Hollywood in a general sense. And, you know, the title, of course, when you read a video title such as Mel Gibson, the 1998 full interview exposing the true evils of Hollywood, #2023, #Mel Gibson, #Hollywood. You know, you're really expecting some shock and awe.
Yeah.
Starts off kind of strong. One of the first things he says is that acting is a kind of prostitution.
I wrote that down. Yeah.
And he does not like, when he's producing or directing a movie, he does not like actors to read for him in the typical audition process because he says it is watching someone go through the act of prostitution.
It's kind of prostitution.
Sure.
But that, I think, is even beyond. It's just kind of watching someone go through the act of prostituting themselves. It's there's something very almost unbearable about it.
I find it. All the actresses I've spoken to, all without prompting, come up with the same thing of how detestable is the casting process. Not the old casting couch thing, just the thing of not having someone good to read with, you know, and being expected to come in and emote and look sexy and the whole thing in front of a bunch of strangers.
It's not fair.
It's perverse.
Which I was like, okay, we're getting somewhere.
Yeah.
Started out strong.
I love when, like, people who play pretend for a living try to act like their career is important or impactful.
Okay.
Like, there's a big difference between prostitution and acting.
There's a huge difference here. Okay.
It's like making people cry in a reading for an audition is one of the worst things you can do to somebody.
Yes. Okay. What you're saying is going to be a theme we will continually refer to this video, because actors are the most fucking melodramatic people in the world.
Yeah, it's their job.
It's literally their job. And listen, I love actors. There's many actors who, if for some reason I got to have a conversation with them or whatever, I would be starstruck. That's what they're there for. We love our actors.
Yes.
Don't we, folks? We love our actors. Best in the world. The fact that so many of, conspiracy type theorists, they don't like most of actors, but there are some actors who are exposing from the inside, and they love those actors.
Yeah. They're typically really bad ones.
So usually the bad ones.
Yeah.
But also it's just so funny. Like,
it's funny because they're always like, why is Jim Caviezel, who we'll probably talk about a little later, he's been blacklisted by Hollywood because he played Jesus Christ and he speaks on truths.
Sure.
But the reason is he first of all, he hasn't been blacklisted by Hollywood.
Yeah, still
he doesn't work that much because he is a really bad actor and he is apparently a nightmare to work with.
And
people like to ignore those facts about these people who are quote unquote speaking the truth and getting blacklisted.
Yes. And genuinely I think is like disabled.
Yes.
At this point.
Yeah.
I mean, there is that great episode of QAnon Anonymous like last year where they said that he needed cue cards to say the line no.
Yes.
He had one line in a scene that was no, and he insisted it be written like on a piece of paper taped to his scene partner's like forehead or something, or like his shirt or something. It just said no on it. So
yeah, you were saying.
Well, just that the fact is, like, it's just so funny that these conspiracy theorists will be like, we can't trust these actors in Hollywood. They're selling us lies. They're using it as a cover up there. Dare I say acting?
Yeah.
But Mel Gibson is telling the truth. Another person who intentionally deploys his like words and charisma on screen. Mm-hmm. That is a skill. Okay. You are deploying, and in this interview, actors are never really like off. They're not acting, but they are consciously aware of how to present their voice and like mannerisms to convey a point.
They're always acting.
They're always acting. I mean, everyone is technically like acting when you're in a social situation. These people are quite good at it, and he's not pretending. But Mel Gibson going on his impassioned monologue about how he thought Christopher Walken was vampiric.
Yes.
Vampiric.
He says he's the Antichrist at one point.
Right.
And
which
he laughs.
Yes, it's obviously a joke, but it's funny because if you're one of these people and you're like reading, what I'm trying to say is these people are so fucking melodramatic.
Yeah.
I don't know why anyone trusts a word out of their mouths.
They spend their entire lives training to speak to you in a captivating way.
Yes, exactly.
Like to manipulate your attention, essentially.
Yeah.
So he even starts the interview. The very beginning of the interview is the guy asking how he got into acting. And he says, well, I was a really good liar.
Yeah, that's so true.
And I like to lie a lot. So I realized that like I could do it professionally.
Yes.
I once in in an old job I had, I videotaped depositions. I probably talked about this before, but I videotaped the deposition of an actor who will remain nameless, but he is the main character of the show Breaking Bad. And he was in a lawsuit about his theater in Palm Springs getting sort of like shut out of getting good releases by an AMC that had opened up down the street, something like that. And they were suing the AMC for basically like trying to monopolize the market or something.
Interesting.
This dude, first off, softest hand I've ever shaken, which is just actor hands.
Yeah, right. I love that.
Really nice, polite guy, very friendly. Talked to everybody like, he wasn't better than anybody. But when they got him talking on a legal record about his theater and like his tears were welling up in his eyes, you would have thought he was talking about like AMC had just run over his child.
These actors,
I've never seen somebody get so fucking riled up and impassioned about a fucking movie theater that they're like, a 30% owner of, and clearly don't do anything except give it money,
right,
and expect money in return. Like, come on,
these fucking actors, man.
Like,
that's what they do.
The fucking judge better rule this guy best actor Because like this is fucking insane.
Yeah, that's like why. That's how he's giving back to that theater. This is his labor. He's performing. He's acting. Like that's what they do. That's what they do. So, I actually wrote early on in my notes. He's talking about Christopher Walken's story, and it's two actors who I'm sure are mutual admirers and peers, and maybe even friends. I don't know, but again, Mel Gibson is telling a humorously what's the word? A story with a humorous affect of exaggeration. But, he refers to Christopher Walken, gliding into the room, not walking, points out that he was a dancer and, he moves with a lot of grace and, just his look and his like presentation and everything is very intimidating and vampire-like. He said that he was on a rooftop. As you said, he was trading stories with Christopher Walken about their knowledge of like medieval torture. And the conversation was getting so graphic and disturbing that Mel was like...
Gibson's assistant had to leave.
Yes.
Because he was so uncomfortable.
And then he was like, Chris Walken wanted to leave. I wanted to leave. And then I looked around and I saw like the number 666 lit up in red. And I looked at him and he was smiling. And I was like, this man is the Antichrist. And I was like, I wrote in my notes, these people are so fucking dramatic. Dude.
Yeah.
And then I turned around and it was on top of the Peninsula Hotel. I turned around to avoid his steady gaze at one point. Yeah. And I was looking at a building with the top of the sixes on it. So there was a huge illuminated triple six in red. Yeah. And I went from that to that to that. And he started smiling. Yeah. And I thought, oh no. Chris Walken is the Antichrist,
And it's like, and Chris Walken be like, I gotta leave. And Mel Gibson, it's like, these people are fucking always acting at each other all the time. They're always doing psychic terrorism on each other.
The reason I was so obsessed with this video is because like, they're like, he exposes dark secrets about Hollywood. And the story is about him bringing up the Middle Ages to Christopher Walken mentioning something about crazy torture devices.
Yeah.
And then he's like, and I knew something was weird about him, but I also know a lot about torture devices. So I got into it to sort of like egg him on.
Right.
And it's like, how the fuck do you like, don't you think Christopher Walken is walking away from this conversation thinking the exact same thing about Mel Gibson?
Of course.
Like, dude, that motherfucker's crazy as hell. He started talking about these insane torture devices. And I looked up and I saw 666, and then I looked at Mel Gibson and he's smiling at me.
Yeah. Well, just these guys are literally telling each other scary stories to tell in the dark, and then they're each pretending that they're getting so scared of the other person that they're freaked out and had to leave. This is like an average interaction of an actor, man. These people are there's something so wrong with their hearts, with their hearts and minds.
We should also remember that Christopher Walken may or may not have actually killed somebody.
Really?
Yeah, Natalie Wood.
Story. Wait, really? He's a suspect in the Natalie Wood murder?
I mean, him and whatever.
I don't know the story at all.
Yeah, him and then her husband and her went on like a boat.
He was on the boat
He was on the boat with them. There was only 3 people there, and he was one of them. And so, like, I mean, I don't know if they killed her or if it was like an accident and they like covered it up or like what, but
right.
I don't want to jump to like they just murdered her.
Well, yeah, of course, but I literally didn't know that. I have not looked into that story at all. That's wow. Okay. Go off. Yeah, go off. Yeah. Well, hey, love him in King of New York.
He seems like a funny guy.
Sure does.
Regardless of, whatever tragedy or, murder he may be involved in.
Right. So, as we're going to break down this interview, again, just trust that this interview is moving toward the quote unquote dark satanic secrets that we here are going to explore on Boys Bible Study. But the thing is that I do think that the rest of the interview does a very interesting job at like getting into Mel Gibson's mind and also like further discrediting the idea that Mel has any sort of hidden knowledge that he's exposed anything at all.
Yeah.
Interestingly, next part of this interview, they spend like a solid 5 minutes talking about how women can't tell stories.
That was really funny. Both of these guys seem like assholes.
Yeah, well, this is an interesting. I've heard this claim about like sex difference being said before.
Yeah.
And so I'm not like a sex difference denier per se. Like I do think that, you know, men be like this and women be like this. In general, of course, there's like so many millions of humans in the world, so there's just as many exceptions as there are rules. But, you know, I think it can be fun and even charming to point out generalized like sex differences in the way that men think and women think and all these things. It is pretty funny to seriously in an interview because they keep trying to tease out this idea of like there not being roles for women and like the way that women are treated in Hollywood and blah, blah, blah. But then they do spend about 5 minutes being like, well, there's more men directors than women because like women simply don't tell stories. And as Mel Gibson says, when you go to a bar and you hear people telling stories, it's men. You know, women aren't telling the stories.
I think the male of the species is more adept at the telling of a story. That's why you go to any bar. It's not women telling jokes. It's guys telling jokes.
Right.
Women are notoriously bad joke tellers, most of them. Some of them are good. Some of them have a capacity for it.
Okay, I don't really know about that one. I mean,
he seems like a kind of guy, like you said, he's always acting.
Yeah.
And he's kind of a moron, and he's just really good at like stating his personal beliefs as if they are facts.
In a compelling way.
Yeah.
Yes. Again, a very charismatic guy.
Yeah.
Charismatic people can basically say whatever they want. You know, they do make they do generously make the exception in the video that there are some women with a very good command of joke telling and storytelling.
Yeah.
But in general, they say it is not.
They're the more masculine women.
Yes,
I think he says.
yes, because they bring up Joan Crawford.
Yes,
they say, you know, Joan Crawford is an example of like someone, you know, with a lot of power in the way that stories were told, and you know, was such a star of the screen, mostly as an actress, but you know, had a lot of influence creatively. And they do, you know, take a moment to say that that is because she has a overtly like masculine brain for her gender. She is like, basically they call her a spiritual man, which is interesting. Not quite related to the Hollywood secrets, but it does sort of get into that because what really leads into the Hollywood secrets is this idea of how producers and how people treat women actors.
Yeah.
And this is not really what he's revealing, but this kind of helps them get there. So, you know, what's Mel Gibson's opinion on women actors? What's his insight into how women are treated in Hollywood?
Well, he says he does say it's pretty unfair and disturbing. I think if I'm remembering correctly. He cites a producer who he doesn't name, who told him that he only wants to see women on film if they are nude or dead, and it's better if it's both.
There's a producer I know, successful producer. I will not mention names, but his whole opinion about women on film, from beginning to end, is very brief. He says, women on film, either naked or dead. Both is better. And it's like, whoa, ooh. The man has got a spiritual malady for a start. I mean, the scary thing is that I think a lot of people think that.
I loved that part because, so we're watching a video. Now, of course, Mel Gibson didn't name this video, but we're watching a video called Mel Gibson Exposes Dark Hollywood Truths. Then there's a line in the video where he says, and there's this, I'm obviously editorializing here, but he says, there's this evil producer who has a disturbed opinion toward women. Yeah. I'm not going to name him. He's like a friend of mine. He basically says like, oh, he's like a guy I talk to.
Yeah.
He's a guy
real great guy. Real champion of the downtrodden.
I know. Right. And I
don't want to jeopardize my career over that.
So it's like, okay. He's like, this is a disturbed attitude. This is blah, blah, blah. But, not brave enough to call him out. Okay.
I mean, and he's constantly referring to like, you know, before I moved to Hollywood, I would hear all these stories of like, oh, be careful if you go there.
Right.
But like, it couldn't be a whole town full of like weirdos, like they're saying.
Right.
But then you find out it's true. He gives no like direct example of any of this stuff. Clearly trying to protect his career, despite being like, mega star at this point.
Yes. So you're right. This is the part when he sort of gets into the meat of his Hollywood secrets that the people who are watching this video are alleging that he is exposing. Yeah. This is like literally the last like 4 minutes of this interview. And he starts to say these sort of like vague, but expressly satanic, but sort of vague claims. And that this sort of piggybacks on his idea of women in Hollywood. He says, no matter how strong you are, you're going to be affected by this place. And that he had a bunch of weird paranoid suspicions about Hollywood that nobody was really explaining to him. So that's how he's exposing it right there. He's really laying it all bare for us right
I mean, these people who comment on this video and say like, oh, he's like, Hollywood hates him because of all this. Like, there really is nobody in a better position to expose Hollywood secrets than he was.
Absolutely.
After his career was slightly derailed by his own actions. Like, he independently produced he produced the highest grossing, he self-funded the highest grossing independent movie ever made. He doesn't need Hollywood. But
clearly not.
Yeah. He knows all these dark secrets. He knows all these truths. His career was essentially over at that point by anybody who was like living in that moment, by anybody's metric who was living in that moment. And what did he do? He spent the next 13 years crawling back to Hollywood, starring in like shitty, direct-to-video movies until he finally got back to like being accepted by the Academy with his like war movie that he made that got nominated for a bunch of Oscars, and it was like his triumphant return to Hollywood.
Right. Not
exposing any truths right now.
No, and as you said, it really seems like he's just, oh, you're telling me he was so disturbed by this entire scene that he didn't very deliberately fight his way back over the course of over a decade.
Guy had hundreds and hundreds of millions of dollars.
Yeah. Seems
biggest
like
star in the world. One of the biggest stars in the world.
Dying to get out of there.
Yeah. Knows all these dark secrets, could ruin anybody. Yeah, what does he do? He just fucking claws his way back into this den of iniquity that he hates so much.
Yes,
and is welcomed back with open arms by this, industry that fears him so much.
Right.
It makes absolutely no sense.
He continues to say, I formed a bunch of opinions, and, surely, as you already said, that, he'd be like, and surely that couldn't be. I mean, this place can't be that whole weird town, where you go, it's like in a horror movie, and they say, don't go to the house on the hill. And, then you find out later that some of your worst nightmares were real.
And I formed a bunch of opinions about the town and about the people in it that were like, surely that couldn't be, because a whole place can't be like, weird town, where the stranger wanders in and all the people are in the bar and they all shut up when he looks at them and they tell you don't go to the house on the hill, and it's like that. And then you go away and you think, no, I was wrong. I mean, that's insane thinking. I'm paranoid. I imagined that stuff. That couldn't be the reason for why so-and-so was acting like. Could it? And then you find out later on the track that you are exactly on track with a lot of this stuff. Not specifically on track, but that you could, that some of your worst nightmares were real at the time, and you think,
This is where it really gets meaty. Then he says, you'll find yourself doing that stuff. And there's a way of doing that stuff without doing it, realizing what it is for what it is. Which, again, using the logic of the people who are interpreting this video to say that Hollywood is like running on the chemicals from the fear of children, is Mel Gibson not saying right there that you also have to suck the children's blood? He's like, all of your worst nightmares are real. But he literally says, and then you find yourself doing these things.
Yeah.
So again, Mel Gibson does not know that this 1998 interview is is source material for a continuing like web of conspiracy. But
yes,
to be one of the people who's interpreting this video like, an ancient like Aramaic text, it's like, is Mel Gibson not saying right there that he himself is doing adrenochrome?
Right.
So
it's like a way of excusing yourself of like, I know it's bad, but the town changes you.
Yes.
Like, bro, if you know the town is so bad, why are you still involved with it?
Right.
You've completed everything you needed to do.
Of course.
You don't need the validation of this industry or like the academy anymore.
Of course. And it goes to show, and the purpose of this interview and where Mel Gibson's head must have really been in 98 was that it was advantageous to him to bill himself as a Hollywood outsider because he was an actor who was breaking into, he even says as much in the interview, he sort of self-deprecatingly refers to his production company as a vanity company.
Mm-hmm.
And, he talks about how he's doing much more than expected of achievement for like a vanity company. But one can imagine if you're in that position, making your way around town, wouldn't it be nice to bill yourself as like, yeah, I'm kind of a Hollywood outsider. I've done things that are very accepted in the industry, but I'm kind of working my way around it, So he maintains this like very obvious, like performative facade of being like, I'm sort of opposed to the way things are done here.
Yeah. Yeah. I do all the same stuff those people do, but right. I'm different.
Right. Exactly.
Because I'm good. I do it with good intentions.
Yes.
I mean, he's trying to, like you said, he's trying to shed the mold of being like Hollywood heartthrob action star.
Right.
Like thriller star, and he's trying to be like, I am an artiste.
Right.
I mean, we see it to the most asinine extent with him like wanting to release Passion of the Christ without subtitles.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
Which I think he eventually did with Apocalypto, but it's still just like, I don't know. I don't think shit like that makes you a smart person or an artist.
No. It's just
It's kind of interesting, but it's like,
it's obtuse for the sake of being obtuse. But this just brings me to like one of the biggest like psychological takeaways from this video, and like honestly watching this like really did kind of illuminate the so-called conspiracy mind to me, which is like, so the people watching this video, they're taking Mel at his word that he is a Hollywood outsider who's observed these like dark trees. At one point he references like, there can't be like people with horns in the basement, right?
Yeah.
He's like, but then all your worst nightmares like come true, blah, blah, blah. So what I want to know is, why do these people need a movie star so bad? They hate Hollywood. They think that all Hollywood is like pedophiles.
Yeah.
And they're literally like Satanists. They literally have horns. They're demons.
Mm-hmm.
But they want a movie star so bad. They clearly love the movies.
Yeah, I don't know. I guess everybody needs somebody to look up to, and they don't realize it, but it's just like you're just looking up to the same like $1 billion propaganda machine that everybody else looks up to. You're just falling for the same shit.
Yeah.
But your like weird way of reconciling that is to be like, I like the Hollywood outsider.
Right. Yeah. It's
despite the fact that he is one of the biggest names to ever be a part of it.
Yes. Well, it's just so funny because like this conversation being done by like two normal people talking is someone being like, ooh, I think like Brad Pitt's the hottest actor in Hollywood. And someone's like, nah, I think Jake Gyllenhaal's hotter than Brad Pitt. And then they both laugh and go on their way.
Yeah.
And these people are like, no, Mel Gibson's actually the one who's not a pedophile. And your favorite actor is actually a pedophile who is, constantly like, doing inhalers of adrenochrome to stay up on set. But that is just one of the most interesting things to me is like in America, I mean, all over the world, because like Hollywood is a cultural beacon for the entire world. But like in America, we really fucking need Hollywood.
Yeah.
And it just blows my mind that these people who have dedicated, all of their time and energy to saying that like this is evil, they're keeping the wool under our eyes. I saw a comment on the Mel Gibson video where someone's saying like, I'm paraphrasing, but they basically said like, can't believe like Mel was even allowed to say the little bit of what he did. We are only pretending to pretend. That's what someone
bizarre.
said. We're only pretending to pretend.
Is there like a fucking like book of phrases for people?
I know.
To just like,
it's very
you
mimetic.
buy it at the grocery store for like $6 where it's like, here's all the phrases you can use to say something without actually saying anything.
Yeah.
Ways for dumb people to sound smart and cryptic.
It's like a guidebook, like how to say where's the hospital in French or whatever. Yeah.
We're through the looking glass here, people.
Yes. I love the phrase we're only pretending to pretend when thinking about Hollywood conspiracy, because what they're basically implying is that actors are real.
Yes.
That is their takeaway from looking at the Hollywood machine. Actors are real, which I think that acting in Hollywood like really confuses mentally ill people. I'm sorry to say. I really do think that these people they spend their whole time being like, Hollywood's selling you a bill of lies. Like, this isn't the way the world is. How are they doing this? They are actually exactly who they say they are.
Yeah.
When they are on screen, that is them being themselves.
I mean, Trump does this all the time when he introduces like action stars and shit. He like thinks they're the real thing that like.
That famous story of how he thought The Undertaker was actually dead in pro wrestling. Which I mean, you never know on the internet, but I think that's like a true story.
I wouldn't be surprised.
I kind of think it is. It's been a while since I read it, but I've read that multiple times, and it's been asserted as like he called like Vince McMahon or someone else in wrestling and is like, is The Undertaker okay? Or like,
oh, it might have been when Vince McMahon died.
Oh, yes, I think it was that.
Yeah.
I could be getting that story wrong, but yeah, okay, the president of the people, like a president who believes that, pro wrestling is real.
Yeah.
The storylines of pro wrestling are just like legitimately real. I mean, there's a reason why he's so beloved,
Yeah.
He gets us. He thinks just like us. But Hollywood actors, the machine, it's all laid out. They want to keep it hidden from us. How they're keeping it hidden from us is, one, they are being their full authentic selves at all times.
Mm-hmm.
And two, they are just literally saying everything they're doing constantly in public.
Yeah. And speaking on what you said about it's like mentally ill people, people with mental health, as they say nowadays.
Sure. Healthy people.
Yeah. They, it's like easy to sort of be fooled by people who are trying to fool you.
Yeah.
For a living.
Right.
Like there's something about that with like Mel Gibson is good at acting smart.
Right.
He's probably a pretty clever guy. I mean, he can direct like big budget movies and stuff. That takes a lot of finesse. A lot of finesse. I don't want to say like people are smart because they do shit like that. Because I mean, I'm an obnoxious, cynical person who does not think just like being able to do a job makes you smart, or like having lots of money makes you smart or whatever.
Hey, swallows fly from like England to South America every year. They also fly into people's windows.
Yeah.
So
yeah, I mean, I'm not like, people will say like, oh, well, this person's like really successful at real estate, so they must be pretty smart. And it's like, well, no, they're just good at their job.
Right. Yeah.
And who knows if that's even true?
That's
people get lucky all the fucking time.
Yes.
But like, he was an actor who I'm sure at this point in his career, while he was still popular, he's like not the Hollywood heartthrob anymore. And I'm sure he's getting like, more and more roles that aren't what he thinks he still is, because he's getting into his leather years. He's starting to become a very scraggly leather person at this time.
Right.
And it's like when you get to that point in your career, you can either be in total denial or you can accept that you're getting older and you're no longer like the number one A-lister.
Right.
Or you can start coming up with all these reasons about why the world is conspiring against you because you're the special one.
Right.
And you learned too much about the evil ways of how this works.
Right.
And it's, your roles aren't as, good as they used to be. Not because you're getting old and, popular interests are changing. It's because you are being attacked.
Yes. Yeah. The honestly, and this is just definitely human psychology in general, but it's also like the hardest thing for people to understand. Let me rephrase this. It's a lot easier on the psyche to be attacked than to be ignored.
Yeah.
Being ignored is literally the fate of us all.
Yeah.
It is like such a human eventuality.
One of the most difficult things to learn.
Yes.
Especially in like traumatic moments for yourself, that the world is going to continue to move on without you.
Yes. And my completely untrained, obviously unqualified, like basically blanket diagnosis for a lot of mental illness is, I'm not saying this is what causes it, but it seems to me like a lot of mental illness manifests as like you see a pattern that's not there, right?
Yeah.
And it kind of, to me, almost feels like escapism from the fact that the world is like totally beyond our control.
Yeah.
And that, maybe the reason that your life, a lot of people have really horrible lives, and maybe the reason your life is horrible is not because there's a series of government agencies and neighbors and friends and family conspiring to destroy you from the inside. Maybe the actual reason is that you're very disenfranchised in other ways that are probably like an accident or a matter of circumstance. Yeah. And it's very difficult for you to cope with that.
Yeah. It's, in some people it feels like it's like a form of main character syndrome, or whatever people call it.
Right.
And it's like, your brain needs to reconcile that you are the most important person in your life with the fact that you are not the most important person to literally everyone else in the world and the world itself.
It's true. Yeah. It's true.
And I feel like that's where a lot of people who comment on videos like this are coming from too.
Yeah.
They just want to be in on they want the secret knowledge.
They want the secret knowledge. They want to think that there's someone in an established echelon of power, in this case, cultural power, Hollywood, is their friend, or at least would, if they met, would recognize what they're doing and say, I'm fighting for you.
Yeah.
Everyone wants something to believe in. Even the people who insist loudly that they don't. This is not for me. This institution's not for me.
Yeah.
I am opposed to this. But there are a couple guys on the inside who are fighting for me, and they're my favorite actors.
Yes.
And Mel Gibson, I love you.
And they also get blacklisted all the time,
right,
despite the fact that they are constantly working.
He just like me, for real.
Yeah.
But yes, that I love that now. You said this in the beginning of our convo, but like to think, especially right now in 2023, that Mel Gibson is at all left behind or cut out
insane.
Of Hollywood.
He's going on the Colbert Report to talk about how they're starting production on The Passion of the Christ 2.
Right.
The movie that supposedly got him kicked out of Hollywood and no one will ever work with him again. He is going on to a network television late night talk show to cheers of people when he says that Passion of the Christ 2 is coming out.
Also, not to mention, that's like a culturally liberal coded television show too, as well. So it's like, this is not even like, he's not going on the bad guys at Fox News. He's not even doing that. He's just straight up making the tour of like your mainstream, Jew controlled like liberal media.
Yeah. I will say though, Colbert, another Catholic.
Is he Catholic?
He is Catholic.
What do you know?
He's apparently very Catholic.
I had no idea.
Yeah, I always thought that was interesting about him.
Yeah, that is.
I was a big fan before he sort of became like a liberal shill.
Yeah, he became a late night host. At that point, it's just all scattered to the wind.
He used to teach Sunday school at
Really?
Catholic Church. Yeah.
Are you sure he wasn't doing it ironically?
Maybe. But I was looking up a little bit of Mel Gibson's Wikipedia article, and his under his directing style, it says that he sometimes breaks the tension on set by having his actors perform serious scenes wearing a red clown nose.
Oh my God, these people are so stupid.
Yeah. Helena Bonham Carter, who worked with him in Hamlet, said of him, he has a very basic sense of humor. It's a bit lavatorial and not very sophisticated. And during the filming of Hamlet, Gibson would relieve pressure on the set by mooning the cast and crew directly following a serious scene. He also inserted a single frame of himself smoking a cigarette into the 2005 teaser trailer of Apocalypto, which I can't think of anything more telling that someone is a total narcissist.
Yeah.
To be like, isn't this a funny joke? I put a single frame of myself smoking a cigarette. He's a total fucking idiot.
Yeah.
And also to be like, why don't we wear red clown noses? That'll lighten the mood. That's the dumbest shit ever, dude. Also, I'm trying to do my fucking job here.
I know. Also, I think I had a visceral reaction to the clown nose thing due to the new LA alt comedy trend of like clowning being like a big deal right now.
So disgusting.
Which I don't mean to implicate some of my genuinely passionate and talented acting for. I do think that so-called, clowning would be an interesting study for like enhancing your physical acting, but believe it or not, listeners, there is a scene of people in Los Angeles who are mid-30s hipsters just like you and I, but they take clowning very seriously.
Very seriously.
I might have to insert the clip of Hillary and Chelsea Clinton interviewing the 100-year-old clown.
Philippe, what's the difference for a woman in comedy than a man in comedy? Can they do the same thing?
Comedy is okay, but clown is more difficult.
Yes.
Because if you act a young boy, you come home, your costume is completely dirty, or your mother still loves you.
Yeah.
If you are a girl, it's not sure your father still loves you. So for a woman, it's more dangerous to be.
Clowning is the fucking cryptocurrency of the alt comedy scene. You could talk my ear off for hours about why it is important and like the new way, the new golden path, and I will still walk away thinking this person is an idiot.
Yeah.
Like, this person is delusional.
You're obviously mad because you got with one of those squirting flowers once, and now you're fucking on a warpath on this podcast.
I missed out on the never-ending handkerchief NFT.
Mm-hmm.
And now I'm making it my life's goal to tell everyone it's worthless.
Yeah, you didn't buy the shoes when they were a normal size, and now they're huge.
Yeah,
you bought the clown car when there was only 2 people sitting in it, and now there's like 24 people in it, and you're mad.
I'm mad. You got to chip in for gas.
Yeah. If there's 24 people in the car, I mean, think about it. That's very cheap gas.
Yeah. Mel Gibson's dad is also the 1968 Jeopardy Grand Champion.
What?
And is notorious for being and this is, well-trodden territory, but his dad is a notorious anti-Semite.
Really?
And 9/11 truther, and Holocaust denier. And also believes that the Second Vatican was a plot by the Jews.
Interesting. Well, that's true.
Yeah.
The rest of them,
broken clocks, right? Twice a day.
9/11, I'd say probably the simplest explanation is the most likely. Holocaust, I'd say probably happened.
Yeah.
I'm like 95% sure. No, I'm just kidding. But it's absolutely clear to me that the Second Vatican Council was a plot by the Jews to destroy the church from the inside to make it more ecumenical.
Yeah. Well, you can't have a dad like that and then also like get pulled over by a cop and be like, you're a Jew and Jews run the world, and like expect to be able to go to work in Hollywood the next day.
Oh, right. Yeah. Yeah.
Like you got to at least give it a week or something before you expect to go back to work.
Right. Well, a thing something else that's happening right now, which is tangential to our podcast and also is bringing Mel Gibson kind of back in the news, is I'm sure everyone who's listening has heard about this. And in fact, I've gotten a lot of inquiries from people directly asking, my opinion about it. The film The Sound of Freedom is huge right now. It is an independently produced film.
Yeah.
That's doing very well at the box office.
Sorry,
and
Nate just texted me. He just discovered that Messi is short. And I feel like it's another form of just like person realizing things that have always been true.
Sound of Freedom is, of course, a film about Tim Ballard. Well, I've not seen Sound of Freedom. Julian has.
I did.
We actually, I'll start by saying, we've gotten some requests to cover it on the podcast, or at least just some, questions about our opinion on it. And, I would see it, but I might have missed the boat on it. We basically decided as a show that we're not going to cover it.
Yeah, other people are doing a much better, much more thorough job of it than I think we have the energy or time to do.
Yeah, of course. But what is your opinion of it? Would you or would you not recommend it to our viewers who are looking for the truth at the heart of,
Well, it's a weird movie because, you can see it for free.
Right. Yeah.
We'll probably be contributing to their their PR campaign by doing it. But I did not know that it was like a big deal. I did not know that it was going to be a big deal.
You saw it right before it blew
literally
up.
saw it like days before it was blowing up online.
Yeah.
I just saw an ad on YouTube for it. It looked insane. I love that QAnon Anonymous podcast about Jim Caviezel.
Yeah. Oh yeah, that's an awesome
And
show,
I was just like, yeah, I'll see a fucking movie with that literally mentally handicapped person acting it. I just want to see if you can tell when he's reading cue cards and stuff.
Of course.
Which I think you can in the movie.
I wouldn't doubt it.
But I just went on the website and it was reserve your tickets or see if someone has bought tickets for you on our Pay It Forward program.
Yes.
And I checked to see if there's free tickets. And as soon as I signed up, it sent me a code to check out on AMC's website to get free tickets. And I had to sign a terms of service thing. And I had to check a thing that said yes, I have read the agreement. And yes, I promise to see the movie. Was the second checkbox on there.
These are the contracts they make you sign in blood when you move to Hollywood, folks.
Yeah.
Yes, I will see the movie.
So you can see the movie for free. A friend of mine explained it much better than I could when they said that imagine you made a movie for, $10 million. I think it was $20 million to make this movie. It's a decently made movie.
Sure, yeah. That's what I hear.
Which is a knock against it for sure.
Yeah, exactly. That's another reason why we didn't want to cover it.
Yeah, it had a $20 million budget, but then, they probably had a $30 million PR or marketing budget.
Right.
So why not spend, $25 million of that on buying free tickets for everybody? And that way you can say, oh, it's sold out shows everywhere. It's made, first night it made $25 million because we just pumped it back into that thing.
Yeah.
And then we'll just hope that the word of mouth and this weird campaign of it's the movie that the media won't talk about. And it's because you didn't do any fucking press stuff. You just bought all these tickets and then paid $5 million to have it advertised on YouTube.
Right.
So it's all just, astroturfing.
No, that was a really interesting. I was at that convo when our friend was saying that to us. But yeah, the idea that I don't know why more movies don't do this. You can just dedicate your own marketing budget to buying tickets for the movie, and then your movie makes $25 million.
I think it's because they know that if they advertised it like a regular movie, they're going up against
Barbie.
The Flash.
Yeah, right.
And Barbie and Oppenheimer.
Yeah.
The Flash, they probably should have done that for. In retrospect, they probably should have bought their own tickets to the Flash. But like, they probably know that it's pointless to advertise this movie.
Yeah.
No one's going to see a movie. No one's going to go into a movie that is about like child trafficking, because it is a disturbing movie to watch.
Right. That's
I would say
reason,
I had a nightmare that night and was in like a terrible mood for the rest of the night, because there's maybe like 3 laugh out loud moments, which you don't want to be laughing out loud in a packed theater of people watching a movie about child abduction and prostitution.
Sure. Not me. I'm in the parking lot putting zip ties around people's door handles. That's how I'm getting my yucks in the movie about child sex trafficking. Anyway, go on.
Yeah, it was it's weird because it's like, it's one of those fucking things that people who do this shit always do, where like, you can't criticize it because in their eyes, you're criticizing efforts to fight human trafficking.
Yes.
That is not what's happening. You can find plenty of information by much more eloquent people than I about why this guy, Tim Ballard, is like a total fraudster.
Yes.
And is just like stealing people's money to not really do anything. And the fact that he is like super anti-woke guy now and is like saying that, you know, supporting trans rights is supporting pedophilia.
Right.
Stuff like that, I think really reveals who he actually is.
Sure.
And what this whole thing is about is just about, you know, making crazy people even crazier. So we reach like some tipping point of no return where, you know, they finally take up arms.
Yes.
To put Donald Trump back in office or whatever.
Right. It's political activism. I mean, that's what the movie is. It's certainly not advocating on behalf of children.
No, absolutely not. Apparently his organization uses children as bait to capture pedophiles, and it doesn't always work out. Like the way they use children as bait in a way just creates more human trafficking.
I'm sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's it's really very sick. I mean, I've said something to this effect several times on the show, but yeah, the rise in the past couple years of concern trolling about child sex trafficking is like very obviously a thinly veiled fascination and titillation with the idea of it.
Yes.
And not a genuine concern for children. Certainly not. This is obvious. As we all know. Actually, I was just reading a Vanity Fair article about the about Sound of Freedom, and it talked about as much. Apparently, I can't remember the man's name, but there is a prominent American advocate, anti-child sex trafficking advocate, who I didn't read much into his history, but was apparently a victim of child sex trafficking, and actually went publicly and said, you know, I don't care for the way it was depicted in this movie. That's just not the way it really happens, you know? And of course, what did fans of the movie do? They attacked this man and called him a pedophile. Yep. It's like literally, this is a man who was a victim of child sex trafficking.
I mean, the movie just puts it in like Hollywood visual language.
What is
like
it?
They make him out to be like, oh, I'm gonna go undercover into this like militia of brown people in the jungle and save the one girl who, like, the whole movie he's like obsessed with saving one specific child. Yeah. And he won't stop, and he just like ignores all these other people who are being like abused to get to her. What was your question?
Oh, I was just gonna ask, like, what does the child trafficking like look like in the movie? Are they like in crates all like tied together? Like, what?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay, so it's like that. It's like it's a fucking adventure.
It's
game.
Very like, it's really weird. It's like that weird like conservative Christian thing of like, I'm gonna get. There's no way I can describe this movie without coming off as like not caring about children, because it's like the way they depict children.
This is how they get you.
Like,
this is how they get you.
They're like little helpless like baby deers. And like all the pedophiles are like these like lecherous, like somewhat like they're like vaguely gay, like always of a different race, or they're like fat, greasy American guys,
right?
Who are like I'm going to go to Mexico and get me some of that like young children meat.
Right.
And it's just like all very like, it just feels like you're watching a fucking cartoon.
Yeah.
Like, or it feels like you're like many of the movies we watch on this podcast, like you're reading a chain email became a movie.
Right.
And it's just like, it's funny because it just makes child trafficking and traffickers look a specific way.
Right.
That like fits in your head easily. And it's like, doesn't like the reality of human trafficking is much more complicated than that. And
Absolutely.
I'm not trying to say it's like, there's pros and cons of it, but it's like, it's not always going to be a fucking like queer person of color who like dresses very ostentatiously, who's like looking for 6-year-olds.
Yeah. So what you're saying is queer people of color can't do anything they set their mind to? Is that what you're trying to say?
Well, that's a discussion for another podcast. No, what I'm saying is like it really absolves like conservative politicians who like, I was, 35 and she was 17 and we drove across state lines to get married and it was the 60s. It was different.
Right.
Like that's not human trafficking. Human trafficking is when you go and find a child in another country and put them in a pet crate and travel across international waters to bring them to like wherever.
Or it's when you put like a single child at the top of a mountain peak, like a Jinjo in Banjo-Kazooie, and and you have to go up and like set them free, and then they start flying away when like a trail of sparkles.
There's like no doubt that these things sometimes do look like this, but it's like totally ignoring like, when your fucking when your uncle or whatever got married, or when this person that is a respected member of your community started dating like a 17-year-old or whatever.
Right.
Like that was just romance.
Right. Well, this is something I've continually said, and this is not necessarily sex trafficking, but all of these movies that do these titillating like adventure stories about child sex trafficking. Unfortunately, abuse starts at the home. Yes. That's really what it does. Like that's an overwhelming majority of abuse cases, and so the idea that it's like a an eyes wide shut party when it's usually, as always, just a lot more mundane and more disturbing than anything like that. But what do? The minute you point that out, when you make a movie about the greatest evil and taboo known to man, if you criticize that movie even slightly, it's like you don't care about this.
Yeah,
you don't care about this, and that is the worst. Something they've said. I'm stealing this point from Red Scare, but one of my favorite arguments that they say, which it really helped me like pinpoint why I was so disgusted with all the discourse on this. Like I would get to that point where I'd be so inherently disgusted and I'd be like, what? Like, why am I so? And they put it very well. They said, these people, especially people like Tim Ballard, who are theoretically, I don't know the story, but they're theoretically like using children as bait. It's like they're making actual children collateral in their fantasies of abuse of children. Yeah. Which is like, that is really foul. Like conceptually, of course. Yeah. But it's just like that is really, really foul. It just goes to show you that these people don't take the feelings and physical safety of children seriously whatsoever.
It's all
despite all their claims.
It's so insincere because when you look at the stuff that they actually like, Tim Ballard and Jim Caviezel, when they go on podcasts to discuss this stuff, like the fucking child trafficking is a gateway to their much more harmful beliefs.
Mundane and harmful beliefs. Yes.
And so the thing is like, okay, everybody is against child trafficking.
Right.
It is such a clear thing that no one will come out in support of.
Of course.
Because it's evil. It's wicked.
I'm going to say here on Boys Bible Study, we do not support child trafficking.
We don't support child trafficking. No. We only support New Brew.
which we but you can find, by the way, in many LA liquor stores.
Yes.
Go on.
But if someone, who believes that trans people are, like wanting to transition is a mental illness.
Mm-hmm.
And you want to get somebody to that belief, then why not start by saying, I focus on rescuing children from human trafficking. I fight pedophilia. Here's like how it all works. Here's how I combat it. Another form of this is offering counseling to children who want to transition. This is also another form of human trafficking.
Right.
That we're able to tie to this thing. And it's just a fucking gateway to like get you to believe in whatever other political thing is. And the reason this guy, the only reason this guy is a household name now is because there's all sorts of fucking dark conservative money funding him, going on these podcasts, starting the talk about the movie, and then moving into, trans athletes. So that's another form of pedophilia and human trafficking. Voting for, climate change policies is another form of human trafficking. And like, it's just fucking so disingenuous. And clearly they're just a way of getting you like hooked into their beliefs. I mean, it's why so many fucking churches have always been about like, stop child abuse, stop human trafficking. Because once you get people to agree with you on something that easy to like agree on, then it's easier to hook them with 100%, other things.
100%.
I mean, I read in the book that's about all like the Norwegian black metal bands, and like it has a big section on Burzum and how he's like, it was really interesting because they sort of like talk with a lot of psychologists about why so many people who believe in UFOs also have like extremely racist conspiracy beliefs. And it's because once you get somebody to agree with you on something else, it's something unrelated to what you actually want them to believe on, it's easier to get them to that second belief.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
That's the same reason that scammers usually write to people using like really bad spelling and grammar.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you can get past that, if someone is already hooked despite all the very obvious flaws in what's happening, then it's like a lot easier to get them in on all the rest of the stuff.
A place like this can humiliate you.
Mm-hmm.
And it can humiliate you, it can be humbling. I mean, it does rip your life to pieces.
Does it?
If you'll let it.
Yeah.
And it's always pounding at the walls. It's these little guys, these little heathens with no soul downstairs with horns on their head with a battering ram trying to like beat your walls in.
Yeah.
But that's your own devils,
Yeah.
I think it's the new
I do want to say I am now that we've taken a quick break, I am now realizing the irony of me criticizing Mel Gibson for saying all of the things he said without any evidence to back it up, and then doing the same thing about conservatives.
Well,
but I swear I've read these things other places.
Well, to be fair, that we in our medium we're working on, which is podcasting, that's just like that's the way you express yourself.
Yeah.
It's like mixing paint to, make a beautiful painting. We're mixing information that we sort of vaguely heard off hearsay and internet articles.
Look this
to make
stuff
a
up.
cogent talking point.
If you find it interesting, look it up.
Look it up. And usually go type what you want into YouTube and look at like the 12th video. That's where the good stuff is. That's where they're hiding the good stuff.
You just need to find one other person to say the same stuff that you want to hear, that you want to say. Yeah. And they don't have to have citations.
Right.
And then it's fact.
I do want to say, I'm having fun talking. We're going a little long, but a lot of people in the Mel Gibson video were linking. They were like, basically, like, if you like this actor revealing truths interview, you've got to watch the Christopher Lee. That's his name, right?
Oh, yeah.
The Christopher Lee 1975 interview, where he also reveals Hollywood truths. So, of course, I looked at this interview. Mm-hmm. It's another British TV interview, 1975. I can't remember the movie that Christopher Lee was promoting.
He was talking about some movie where he wore a third nipple.
Oh.
Did you hear that?
I didn't
part?
catch that.
Yeah,
no.
It was really bizarre.
It is quite bizarre. I know he's playing a satanic priest of sorts in the film. And this is another film where we're only pretending to pretend, all right? This is an actor talking about what it's really like. Mm-hmm. And early on in the interview, thus further cementing my thesis of like actors are so fucking melodramatic. Mm-hmm. The interviewer asked Christopher Lee, so is black magic real? And he's immediately like, oh, it is 100% real. everything about it is real. Satanism, necromancy, voodoo, juju. That's what he says. He says all these things are real.
Do you regard black magic as being purely fictitious, or is there some truth in it?
Some truth. 100% truth. There is nothing fictitious about black magic, in any way whatever. It is a fact. It is a fact which has existed for several thousand years. I mean, when we talk about black magic, we are talking about Satanism, necromancy, alchemy, witchcraft, the worship of Satan, the worship of dark forces, whether it's voodoo, juju, whether it's something practiced in the Western world or the Eastern world, whether it's easily defined or not easily defined, the order of the left-hand path, the following of this, the following of that. It is basically the worship of the force of evil as embodied by Satan, Lucifer, the princes of darkness and their legions and so on. In a very simple sense, of course, it goes much more deeply than that. It is a fact. It is a desperately dangerous fact. It does exist. It exists around us today. Satanic ceremonies will be happening in Britain tonight. Very definitely. Ask any priest, ask any member of the forces of law and order, and they will tell you that Satanism as such, it's there, and it has been for thousands of years. Man has worshipped the devil longer than he has worshipped perhaps an established religious figure.
He says humans have been worshiping the devil like before humans have been worshiping God. And all this stuff. He's saying this just totally breathlessly, dead serious. He's just like, black magic is 100% real. He then uses this, the interviewer's asking him a compelling point to think about, which is, so if black magic is real and you all are taking great pains to like accurately depict a black mass in your film, then are you concerned that you yourself are like inadvertently performing black magic? This I thought was a very telling response. I mean, obviously everyone watching this video is like, wow, I can't believe he's dropping these knowledge bombs. But Christopher Lee says, that's interesting because, we used a baby in the movie, like a baby actor, who was just a couple months old, obviously. The baby didn't know what was going on, but he was acting in the movie. And we asked the young parents, are you sure you're okay with us, performing, using your baby like as a prop to perform this like black mass ceremony where he'll be baptized with fake blood in an upside down cross and like consecrated to the devil. And the parents were like, oh yeah, it's fine. It's just a movie. And then apparently they consulted some priest because they filmed it in like an actual Catholic church. And, they asked the priest his opinion on it. And the priest was like, yeah, it's fine. It's only a movie. And then Christopher Lee let something slip. He was like, but all the other actors on the set, we were pretty freaked out about it. And I was like, aha, actors are so fucking, they get so lost in the stories they're telling. Yes. They freak themselves out. They tell each other like scary bedtime stories.
Yeah.
Every other person involved, literally the parents of the young child and a Catholic priest who we have all decided is like the spiritual authority on some matters. They're like, yeah, it's like literally you guys are playing pretend. It's fine. It's just for a movie. And they're all like, I don't know, you guys. This is really freaky stuff. And everyone watching this video is like, wow, these actors are really like lifting the veil on what really happens in the Hollywood machine. It's like it's people slightly more famous and handsome people telling ghost stories to people in YouTube comments.
That's because they gotta delude themselves into thinking what they're doing is important.
Yeah, because that's what makes a good movie.
Because if all of society realized that it was people fucking playing pretend, they would stop. You wouldn't be able to demand, $20 million to star in a movie.
I wonder if that's true. I mean, we do love to watch people playing pretend. It's Lindy as fuck,
Yeah.
I don't know if that would necessarily go away, but
I mean,
you're right. No, there is some sort of like, we all know that movies aren't real, but the power they create of the perception of them really happening is absolutely part of what's being sold to us.
I think there's like a survival aspect of having to delude yourself into thinking what you're doing is important to society. Or has some sort of impact.
Yes,
I mean,
well,
it does have
for sure.
impacts, of course, and it, in some ways it is important, in other ways it's not. But like, if you're doing a fucking, Hammer horror movie where you're playing a satanic priest and doing a demonic rite, you like basically have to tell. You're either convincing yourself what you're doing is not a total waste of time because you're not actually contributing anything to society, or you're just, really. A really good spinster.
Yeah.
Not spinster. really good at PR spin.
Yeah,
to like promote the movie. Yeah,
like a spider crafting a beautiful web.
Yeah.
I think
you're just a carnival barker.
Right. That's what they are. Actors.
Yeah.
I love them for it. I think this is why all of my favorite movies are movies where the director is just intentionally torturing the actor.
Yeah, they're great.
Yeah, basically every movie where it's like, and this actor went insane. I'm like, I want to watch that. I would enjoy seeing this person tormented for my delight. No, but I think what Mel Gibson really exposed in Mel Gibson, the 1998 full interview exposing the true evils of Hollywood, I don't really think what he was exposing was evil. I think he was exposing that actors are, well, they're making stuff up.
Yeah.
And they're really good at it, and we love them for it. We really do.
Yeah.
Hell, I'll watch The Passion of the Christ too. I'll be first in line for that motherfucker.
I know. It'll be really funny when that is released by 20th Century Fox, Disney, and people won't really have anything else to say about Hollywood trying to keep him down.
Nope. Absolutely not.
Yeah.
Passion of the Christ 2 is my Barbie, dude. Barbie's a false idol, man.
She really is.
Yeah.
To people who say Hollywood is just a den of evil and pedophilia.
Yeah.
You're not wrong.
Probably not.
But you should also not look into literally any other industry in the world.
Yeah.
Because you're going to be hard pressed to find any place that is not a den of sin and sexual evil.
Yeah, it's almost as if, the pursuit of riches and power corrupts.
Yeah. I would say podcasting is the only pure
I agree.
art form.
The only people we're exploiting is ourselves.
Yeah. And that's because we enjoy it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we like to be, sort of ritually humiliated just as much as any actor does.
Mm-hmm.
But I do like not having to show my face. That's fun. I got a bit of a face for radio.
Oh, you're a handsome
That's what my dad always said. Well, thank you. Well, what do you say? Should we rate Mel Gibson, the 1998 full interview exposing the true evils of Hollywood? Hashtag 2023, hashtag Mel Gibson, hashtag Hollywood.
Yeah, I'm going to give it a 1 out of 1 pairs of sugar tits, which is what he called the police officer that pulled him over.
Oh, really? I forgot that part.
I was reading a Vanity Fair article where they interviewed his friends after that happened, or about that. And he was sort of in his sort of, wandering the desert era. It was 2011 or whatever.
Sure.
Mel Gibson had it all. And then what happened?
Right.
And one of his friends, this is the ultimate, I am a stupid Hollywood person trying to they're just fucking hucksters.
Mm-hmm.
And they said, I think what you saw Mel doing there, he knew he was going through a divorce. His wife had left him and taken everything. I think he was trying to, convince the cop to murder him there. I think he was trying to get the cop to end his life.
Right.
And he was saying all these things about Jewish people, all these derogatory things about Jewish people. Then he was telling the cop that they were Jewish. And I think he was trying to antagonize that cop to shoot him. Right. And I was like, okay.
What a torture genius.
Yeah. There's much simpler ways to get a cop to shoot you than try to say anti-Semitic things that they probably agree with you about.
Dude, don't be a pussy. Reach for the service weapon. Yeah. Come on.
So ridiculous.
Grow up. So ridiculous. Yeah, we need to really listen. I get that.
Talk about being in denial.
Yeah.
After hearing your friends say a bunch of fucking insane beliefs they have. Now, I think he was actually just trying to be hurt by someone by saying hateful things to them.
Listen, I get that the movies are more potent if we do sort of put some real human imagination magic into them, but we've got to stop pretending these people are tortured geniuses. Yeah. We really have to. They're good at what they do. I love them for it. The Patriot's a fun movie, guys. We love this movie.
That's the other thing. What's Is there a fucking Mel Gibson movie that is like actually, you know, artistically significant, or are they all just like really well-made blockbusters?
I wouldn't know off the top of my head. I would have asked you or Scott that question, but
because I can't think of one.
Should we take a quick glance at the IMDb before we get out of here?
Yeah, I cannot think of one. I will say
Braveheart,
the most.
know,
Yeah, but that one, like, I don't think that's like a fucking
no. It's a blockbuster.
Work of art.
It's a blockbuster.
I will say my biggest takeaway from this interview is that it made me really want to watch Lethal Weapon.
Yeah, let's do that after this. What do I rate this interview?
You rate it. I'm going to start looking up his IMDb and see if I can find one fucking movie that I would consider like an actual work of art.
Right. Yeah, I wonder who will go with one first. I'm not good. I would say, you know, this interview really exposed a lot of dark Hollywood secrets for me. I'm going to be keeping my eyes wide open as I'm walking down these perverse Hollywood streets. Gonna watch out for any, you know, if I ever see like if there's like a crate being held up by a stick with a piece of cheese underneath, I'm gonna try to think twice before I leap for that crumb of cheese there. We're gonna have to give this film 2 out of 2 Passion of the Christ because I'm eagerly awaiting the sequel. I'll be wearing full stigmata and only a loincloth as I sit down in the theater for that one. It's going to be an event for people like me. What do you think? Any good Mel Gibson movies? Anyone that makes him?
I mean, I'm only looking at movies that he produced or directed.
Okay.
Of which there aren't that many. I'm not going to count acting in them because people are not. Just because you act in a good movie does not make you an artist.
Sure. And honestly, I mean,
you're doing what you're told.
The ones he acted in, even they're good movies. Don't you know? It's like. These are fun movies, you know, like
I think
you know, he was in Signs. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I know. I mean, like I really like that movie, but I would not consider it like a. You know, I don't think it made me a better person after watching it.
He was in Mad Max. He was in Lethal Weapon.
Yeah, director. All right, Hacksaw Ridge war movie. It's not going to be good.
No.
Apocalypto, maybe. Never seen it. Passion of the Christ, Braveheart.
Passion of the Christ also, like, I mean, it's a good movie because it's such an insane cultural product, but it's like, it is not at all like...
It's like a ripoff of Lord of the Rings.
Yes,
remember?
it literally looks like Lord of the Rings with Bible Times costumes, and it adds stupid shit to the Bible that diminishes the impact of the Bible.
Yes.
It adds like Judas being chased by demon babies. Legitimately, I this is an aside. You know, I watched End of Evangelion for the first time, and I was like, this is a film that is in such reverence to the Bible, as much as it's clearly just using the Bible for like aesthetics. It also is like so reverent to Christian cosmology that I was blown away. Passion of the Christ is literally like less reverent to Christianity.
Yeah.
Even though he bills it as his like love letter to God. It's like so irreverent and weird.
I'm just like, where are these people who like in these comments are saying like he is like one of the true artists in Hollywood? Like what evidence is there for this?
I know.
It's like the same people who are like Forrest Gump's the best movie ever made.
Yeah.
And it's just like fucking...
It's a fun movie.
IMDb top 250 is like the canonical ranking of best movies.
Yes. Well, to all of our, daring truth seekers listening to the occult information of this episode, we thank you very much for your support. Special thanks to our patrons at the $20 tier, Nicole, Marissa, Jeff, Kara, and Rhett. Thank you so much. And our outro music, of course, is Oh My God by Mary. So from all of us here at Boys Bible Study, myself, Ash, my co-host, Julian, our co-host, Scott, who could not be here tonight as he is deep in the jungle saving some very special kids.
Yep.
From bad time they're having down there.
Patreon subscribers.
Our Patreon subscribers are all being, like I said, the only game I can really think of is, they're like the Jinjos from Banjo-Kazooie. They're at the bottom of shallow ponds, next to glittering puzzle pieces. All of our Patreon subscribers are scattered throughout the levels, and we have to get them back. Peace be with you.
and also with you. I don't know how to do it for this one.
It don't matter.
But stop human trafficking.
Let's stop
drink
it now,
new brew.
y'all. Yeah.
Forgive me, Father, for I have sinned. I feel your love in me, it's coming from within. Oh my God, my devotion is so unwavering. Divine emotions when you enter me. Every day you take me